There you go.
Aye. I will call to order the June 16th, 2026 meeting of the Indiana Alcohol and Tobacco Commission. I will note that we have a quorum, 3 commissioners in the hearing room, and I am on virtually. Next item on the agenda, the disposition of minutes from May 19th, 2026 and June 2nd, 2026.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, we have proposed minutes for the meeting of the Indiana Alcohol and Tobacco Commission for both May 19th and June 2nd, 2026. I've reviewed those. They are appropriate. I move acceptance of the minutes as provided.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item, the prosecutor's recommendations.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we have a report from the prosecutor on the alcohol and tobacco fines collected for the recent term. There were 42 fines collected for a total of $28,250. There are 5 that are worthy of note. The first is from Mecca Cafe in West Harrison, Dearborn County. Officers received a complaint of a fight that occurred with intoxicated people. The fight started inside the business, involved an off-duty bartender who was intoxicated. Police checked that had numerous recent fights and domestic incidences. They wrote a violation for public and nuisance, and the place was placed on the PACE program. The parties have agreed to a $2,000 civil penalty and a 3-day suspension of the alcohol permit. The second comes from Marion County, Indianapolis, the Mucky Duck Pub. Task force was assigned a complaint that a battery took place at the location. An employee started a fight with a patron. The violation was written for public nuisance. They were currently on the PACE program. Parties have agreed to a $1,000 civil penalty and a 1-day suspension of the alcohol permit to be served on Saturday, July 4th of this year. The next are 2 from Zach Holdings Inc. and Zach Holdings Inc. Both occurred in Elkhart County. The officers conducted an investigation, one on a complaint, one just a permit visit. They observed at that time smokable hemp on the property. One had a total of 8 pounds, one 6.5 pounds. They each have agreed to a penalty, one $1,000 civil penalty and a 7-day suspension of the tobacco certificate. The other agreed to a $2,000 civil penalty and a 7-day suspension. The last comes from Connersville in Fayette County. It occurred on a visit by excise receiving a complaint of smokable hemp. They found at that location 250 smokable hemp products in both pre-roll and flower form. Parties have agreed to a $1,000 civil penalty and a 7-day suspension of the certificate. I move acceptance of the prosecutor's report and recommendations.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, consideration of applications. There are 654 renewal applications.
Madam Chair, I incorporate by reference this list of 654 applications for renewal, which have been recommended by local boards, reviewed by our staff with authority of the commission, and hereby move approval of the same pending any needed escrow hearings and inclusion on this list of the minutes of this meeting of June 16, 2026.
Second.
It's been moved.
Jessica, we lost you for a minute.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 52 new and transfer applications.
I incorporate by this reference list of 52 permit applications for new permit or applications for changes in ownership or location or both of current existing permits, which have been recommended by local boards, reviewed by a commissioner, and I hereby move for approval of same pending a floor plan approval by the Indiana State Excise Police and an escrow hearing if needed. and inclusion of this list as part of the minutes of the meeting of June 16, 2026.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 57 catering applications.
Madam Chair, I incorporate by reference this list of 57 permit applications for catering, and I hereby move for approval of same inclusion of this list as part of the minutes of the meeting of June 16, 2026.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 40 direct wine shipper applications.
Madam Chair, I incorporate by reference this list of 40 new and renewal direct wine shipper permits, and I hereby move approval of same and inclusion of this list as part of the minutes of this meeting of June 16, 2026.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Waivers of fees for letters of extension.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I move accept and review the letters, the report, the waiver of fees and letters of extension approval and move approval of same.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Items for discussion. The first item for discussion is RR 1240326 Rios Events LLC renewal with the local board voting 4-0 to deny.
This comes to us from Frankfort, Indiana. It is a 210 permit. There was a local board hearing on June the 3rd. It has had violations. And also there was some questions about falsification of the application. Excise did go in and visit and talk with the owner of this business and was able to review his ID and noticed that there was a different date of birth that was listed on his ID than was disclosed on the application. With the correct date of birth and information, they were able to do a background check and did find several convictions, criminal convictions. Several of those for driving without a driver's license in Indiana. I believe there was at least one for operating while intoxicated and one for leaving the scene after an accident, and there could have been others. There is an extension. This permit expired January the 19th of 26, and it has had an extension from March the 5th to June the 3rd, as it had been able to operate since that date, since the extension expired. I'm gonna have a two-part recommended order on this, and I move that we uphold the denial of the renewal of the permit and grant an extension until July 21st of 2026 on the extension. That would give them enough time to see if they want to appeal the denial of the renewal, if that's approved here in a minute, and to ask for the appeal of the denial. And that's my motion, two-part motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion, RR 4343406 Robert T. Carter, new with the local board voting 3-0 to deny.
This comes to us from Kosciuszko County. There was a local board hearing on January the 4th, This would be a beer only permit. Is what it was applied for. We had seen this applicant before. He had been granted a permit. That permit had problems. It was, under appeal and it was going to be transferred to somebody else. The appeal was overturned, on this. So, now this individual is applying for the permit back. The one that originally had it, little confusing there. We, had, this individual, did have letters from 3 people, remonstrators, that we did review and the local board had, and we did have somebody show up in person to remonstrate against. The local board, felt like the location, was somewhat of a problem, too close to where use, activity fields is located, but settled on that there was no need for this service in the community. So they voted to deny the permit. I don't find any reason to overturn them. So I'm going to move that we uphold the denial of a new permit for RR 4343406 Robert T. Carter.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 4934931 BSL Entertainment LLC. This is a renewal with the local board voting 2-1 to deny.
This comes to us from here in Indianapolis. There was a local board hearing on June the 1st. They did appear for the local board hearing and were represented by counsel. This permittee has been in business for a few years. They had a previous violation that was pretty minor on floor plans and signage on a cash machine. But they also had a much more serious problem, and that was an incident at the end of last year where a bouncer who was employed by the business, he encountered 2 women trying to enter the business and asked them for a cover charge. They knew on Thursday nights the business doesn't charge a cover, and I think there was a little confrontation. They did enter the business. There was another encounter with the bouncer about them being there and the cover charge, I guess, and they did like toss some money at him. And then when they were leaving, this bouncer did follow them out of the business and had a weapon either on him or obtained a weapon, and he did shoot both of the individuals. Luckily, they survived, but very unfortunate event, serious altercation. After that event, about a week or so after that event, when they should have been on their very best behavior, there was another issue, and that involved a different employee bouncer who escorted a female under the age of 21 into the bar. Should not have been there since they were not old enough to be in the facility. But you can see on video that this female was escorted by one of the ID checker employees into the facility. And then later, this female under 21 was involved in a rather large fight that broke out in the in the business. I will note that this business did resolve the violation relatively quickly with the ATC. They did serve a pretty significant suspension for the violation. They did submit a very detailed corrective action plan. They have put quite a few things in place that are very good, probably should have been in place since they opened the business. The bouncer in question that did the shooting has somewhat of a criminal background. And I don't believe the business did a criminal background check on him when he was hired. I would think everybody would want to check their employees out before they're hired for any sort of position. And I think that is their practice now. I wish it had been before. The local board voted to not renew this permit on a vote of 2-1. I like what they've done since the serious incident. I just wish it would have been in place a lot sooner so we wouldn't have had these two individuals maybe who would have been shot by an employee. And then a fight break out later from letting an underage individual in. I am going to move that we uphold the local board denial, and that is for RR 4934931 BSL Entertainment LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, RR 4936592 8501 Pendleton Club LLC. This is a renewal with the local board voting 4-0 to deny.
Yes, this is also here in Indianapolis. They requested an individual with the business to come and appear before them for violations to consider the renewal. He did come and appear and was represented by his counsel. They had violations dealing with entertainers who had caused fights in the business. Had two such violations involving the entertainers. And it's difficult when you can't get your entertainers. I understand that they were contract entertainers, but still you're responsible for even your contract entertainers who come in to control your place of business. The fight that did break out into the bar area. It was not confined to just the behind the scenes area. There was some discussion about the number of businesses that this business operator owns. They are rather large. They're in 32 states, some 100 locations. They state that they are having problems with this one and decided to, after problems there, decided that they would not keep the business open. It is closed pending location and has been since November. With the experience of owning 100 businesses, it's hard to believe you can't, know how to operate them in a good manner to keep your contract employees under control. The local board voted 4-0 to deny the renewal. I don't find any reason to reverse them. I move that we uphold the denial of the renewal for RR 4936592 8501 Pendleton Club LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Just to reaffirm Commissioner Magnan's comments, they have closed the location. I think I recall they sold the building. And they're looking to transfer the permit to a restaurant, according to the statement. So I applaud them for recognizing the difficulty they have with this business at that location. And they engage in efforts, but I see no reason not to support the local board in their determination.
All right, anything else? Not seeing anything. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 4943801 Tapas Inn LLC. This is a transfer with the local board voting 2-1 to approve for 1 year.
Yes, this business is here also in Indianapolis. And it was heard by the local board on June the 1st. This, owners of this business had a permit initially. They had some problems with that. It was being transferred to someone else. That was, denied. And it's now, the appeal of it was overturned. And so now they are eligible to once again apply for a permit. So it's a new permit now. I'm sorry, a transfer permit, which is allowed under the statute since it was on up for hearing and the it was appealed and overturned on the hearing. There was some question and still is some question about the owner of this business and what they were trying to do with the original transfer and if that was actually an arm's length transfer. The individual, the owner was questioned pretty extensively on that. I didn't think all the testimony lined up nice and neatly, but the local board did vote to approve for 1 year. And I'm going to move that we uphold the transfer of the permit for 1 year, strict compliance since this permittee has had some problems in the past. And that is for RR 4943801 Tapas Inn LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? I would just note that they are still on a 1-year renewal with strict compliance for OHSR Enterprise. That's still expected that they'll have strict compliance there, and I won't be willing to entertain excuses if something happens that it was because they spread themselves too thin. My concern is with getting the second permit right away, maybe they're not taking it seriously on the first. That they need to be monitoring that, managing that. That's still a very large facility. With that being said, I'll go with the 2 members that voted in favor of renewal, but with the admonishment that they have to run both businesses as clean businesses in compliance with 7.1. And they know the responsibilities they're taking on by applying for the second permit. Anything further? Not seeing anything. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. You guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't hear anything. So all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Next permit for consideration is RR 4943567 Suki Entertainment LLC. This is a transfer with the local board voting 3-0 to approve. It was remanded by us and is coming back to us on a vote.
Yes, this comes to us from Indianapolis. It was heard by the local board on June the 1st. This business previously had been issued a catering hall type permit and had been operating as a catering hall. But they had had some problems with that. They were holding public events, and as a catering hall, you can't do that without notice to us. So they were trying to operate kind of as a restaurant bar and as a catering hall, closed event to the public. It is a very large event space. I don't believe they have a kitchen. They had previously been issued a cease and desist for under 21 event that they held where there was alcohol bottles still in the, at least in the well at the bar, maybe other places. Excise has been in to visit them and has educated them on the difference between a catering hall and a type 210 permit, which is an event, a permit that's open to the public. They have decided that they would like to have a 210 permit instead of the catering hall. They want to be open to all public events. So that is what they are now seeking. There was still some question about if they understood the difference between the two type permits. I think at the end of the hearing, it became a little clearer that they understand and they will operate as the public permit, the 210. They did also state that they are going to sit down with a sergeant at the IMPD to again understand what they can and can't do. And the recommendation was for a transfer for 1 year, and I'm going to move that we uphold the transfer of the permit. 1 year, we'll see them again in 1 year for renewal, and that is for RR 4943567 Suki Entertainment LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 1123795 Mario Bros Incorporated. This is a renewal with the local board voting 3-0 to deny and an extension request.
Yes, this comes to us from Clay County. This permittee has had 2 violations. One in July of 24 for operating on an expired permit. They stated that they had some tax problems. They were trying to get a letter of extension. They had to sell some real estate in order to get the money to pay the taxes. That was the first violation. And then the second violation was in January of 26 for no employee permits. It was stated at the local board hearing that this permittee has some 15 other restaurants that they own, and there have been some violations at the other permits. I think at least 4 violations at the other locations for no employee permits, buying alcohol from a retailer, and also for bootlegging. They are expired. They did have several extensions. The last extension will got them through today. They did submit a corrective action plan back in April. It was adequate. I think it could definitely have been enhanced, but they did submit one. We did. I think it passes, but just barely as a corrective action plan. I'm gonna have a two-part motion on this. First, for the renewal of the permit, I'm gonna move that we uphold the denial of that permit. On the extension request, I'm gonna move that we grant an extension until July 21st. And if they appeal, that will give them time to appeal the denial if my motion's upheld, and start an appeal process. And that's my motion for RR 1123795 Mario Brothers Inc.
I second as to both motions.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is DL 55345510 Martinsville Mart 1 Inc. This was a remand, or this is a request for remand. It looks like it was advertised, maybe newspaper advertisement without the address.
Yes, this comes to us from Morgan County. They did not put an address on the orange sign that was posted. And so there was not a good posting. So we are remanding back to Morgan County. It needs to be again advertised for public hearing with a good address. And that is my motion for the remand for DL 55345510 Martinsville Mart 1 Inc.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now we're about to consider 3 reactivation requests. Before we get into any of them, I will note that before a permit expires, we send a renewal notice. 5 months after it expires, we send a notice that it will be made dead. We put these on the commission agenda. We give another 2 weeks for people to renew. It's getting to be a huge burden on the ATC, the processors, the number of times we notify. If these permits have value to individuals, they need to renew. We grant 1-year permits. You have to renew every year. It's the same expiration date every year. I've said this before and I'll say it again. If these revert to the commission and we auction them off, the quota slot is gone and there is nothing we can do for these individuals, especially because they have been given more than adequate notice that their permit is going to revert to the commission. So I'm growing weary of the number of times people just let this go, come back to us. They expect us to put in all of this additional effort when we are an understaffed, underfunded government agency that does not have the resources to continue doing that. So this is an admonishment to everyone. Make sure your clients know their expiration date. It hangs on the permit on their wall. They need to be responsible for ensuring that it's renewed, that renewals come in complete. There are not missing items. If there are missing items, they get their missing items done. With that, I'll call the first one. First reactivation. What was that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
First reactivation request is RR 3238902 AFG Greenwood LLC requesting reactivation.
This comes to us from Hendricks County. It is a beer and wine permit. It did expire September of 2023. They finally have the renewals on file. As our chair states, we are going to reactivate these for now, but sounds like we're going to be looking at these in the future. It may not be as generous in the future. Make sure you get your renewals on file and keep them active. Keep them renewed. Otherwise, you could lose them, as our chair states. But I move that we reactivate RR 3238902 AFG Greenwood LLC. And if it's not renewed, and it goes back on the list, I don't think we'll give it a chance to ever be reactivated.
Reluctantly second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I would like to point out to your eloquent statement about this earlier in this meeting. We renewed 654 renewal applications. I printed that list up. I looked through it, and it struck me that if there were 600 renewal applications that went through without a whimper, with a lot of work by our staff, and that happens 26 times a year, there are about 12,000 renewal applications that go through. And so this is not onerous, it's not burdensome. 12,000 other permit holders can do this. So to your point, let's get it right, folks. Do it when you're supposed to. I'm going to support the motion.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? I would just note that this permit is in escrow. It looks like their escrow started on September 19th, 2022. These unrenewed years will count toward their escrow 5 years, which would make their drop dead date September 19th of 2027. So they have just over a year to get it active, get it transferred, get it in a good status with us. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for consideration is RR 4929975 Queen Creole LLC requesting reactivation.
Yes, this one comes to us from here in Marion County. It did expire November the 5th of 2025. We now have the renewal on file. I'm going to move that we reactivate RR 4929975 Queen Creole LLC with all the other caveats already stated.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I will note, I think this one was on our dead list to be announced. We did receive the renewals and it should have been pulled off the next dead list. So they waited until the very end, but I think they did get it in before we deactivated at our last commission meeting. So I guess credit to them for paying attention to one of the multiple notices we send. So this one, I am more in favor of the reinstatement since it should have been pulled off our last commission list. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for consideration is RR 7136182 Coro Corporation requesting reactivation.
This comes to us from St. Joseph County. It did expire March the 13th of 25. We did receive a letter from their attorney asking for this to be reactivated. They have not yet paid their 2 years of renewals that are due. They will have to make sure that they do that here quickly. I'm going to grant them an extension until July. I'm sorry. I'm going to put them on our agenda for July 21st to hear it again. I want to make sure that the renewals are paid and that they have activity before then. If not, put it back on our agenda to look at requesting to make it dead at that date. and that is for RR 71-36182 Coro Corporation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Marjorie, it looks like this also has a tax hold. Would you be willing to amend your motion to include clearance of the tax hold prior to that date?
Yes, thank you.
Renew the second to the amendment.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I would just note, I'm not sure if this was in escrow or not, but if they are intending to have this in a non-operational escrow status, we would start the escrow, we would back the escrow up to the date they, okay, it was active before, but we would start any escrow that they need now on that March 13th, 2025 expiration date. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item is DL 4533805, Nermal Incorporated, requesting reinstatement.
This was, comes to us from Lake County. This was on our agenda before on May the 19th. The owner of this permit stated that someone had fraudulently signed, his name and submitted paperwork to the ATC to, deactivate this permit. He stated that that was fraudulently signed and it was not him who, did it. Since that time, since our May 19th meeting, he did go to the police department and filed a report that was on May the 29th stating that he believes this fraudulent activity has happened. We did ask excise to look into this matter. They have stated that they are not in business. There's no alcohol being sold there, which was good to know. And they are looking at possibly the fraudulent activity. They may have more on that later, but for now, I'm going to move that we reinstate this permit, and that is for DL 4533805 near Mall Inc.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 3940100 Rivertown Eatery Incorporated. This permit comes on following 2 failures to appear for escrow hearings and a denied escrow request.
Yes, this comes to us from Jefferson County, and as our chair stated, the last 2 escrow hearings, they did not appear. I move that we make this permit inactive, and that is for RR 3940100 Rivertown Eatery Inc.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is RR 1019620 Kansai Japanese Steakhouse LLC. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Comes to us from Clark County. They had some missing paperwork, which they now have gotten to us. They are scheduled for a local board hearing on August the 6th. I will note, though, that they have an issue with the Secretary of State's office. Their corporation, their LLC has been administratively dissolved. They do need to take care of that. They did expire March the 5th. They had an extension from March the 11th to June the 9th. I'm going to move that we grant a 30-day extension and ask that they get their Secretary of State's issue with the dissolved entity taken care of during that period of time. And that is for RR 1019620 Kansai Japanese Steakhouse LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 71363668, the Social LLC. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this comes to us from St. Joseph County. There was a violation. They had previously been on our agenda and they were denied the permit renewal. They had a pre-hearing conference in January of this year, a final pre-hearing in February, a final hearing in March. They have been working on resolving this appeal. And I think that there will be a final decision made within the next 60 days. So I'm going to move that we grant a 60-day extension for RR 71363668, the Social LLC.
Second.
And I will abstain on this as I'm the hearing judge.
In that case, then, a motion has been made and seconded to approve the extension for 60 days. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Showing none, the motion carries. With one extension. Abstention.
All right. Next item for discussion is RR 3432818, The Great Escape LLC. This comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this comes to us from Kokomo. It is a 210 permit. They expired April the 6th of this year. They had an extension from April the 7th to July the 5th. They are before the local board on July the 8th. I'm going to move that we grant a 90-day extension for RR 3432818, The Great Escape LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 4535962, Woo's House, Maryville Incorporated. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this is from Lake County. This is a 210 permit. They did expire February 19th of this year. They had an extension from February 20th to May the 20th. They had a paperwork issue with us that's now been resolved. They're scheduled for their local board on July the 1st. I move that we grant a 90-day extension for RR 4535962, Woo's House, Maryville, Inc.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 1541806, Roman Greendale Incorporated. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this is from Dearborn County. They did expire March the 5th. They had an extension from March the 9th to June the 7th. They did have a letter of authority from June the 8th through today. They had a paperwork issue. They still have one issue, and that is on the manager's questionnaire. Still need to resolve that. They are scheduled for the local board on July the 21st. I'm going to move that we grant an extension until July, since the local board meeting is July the 21st, I'm going to move that we grant an extension until July 28th. And They need to get the manager questionnaire issued, taken care of, and then, if they need additional time at that point, we can grant additional time, but maybe they'll be past local board and they will be renewed. So extension until July the 28th, and that is for RR 1541806 Roman Greendale Inc.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is RR 4905850 Monami Incorporated. This was approved for a one-year renewal by the local board and was on our renewal list today, so we do not need to consider an extension. Inactive files, there are 24 permits to be made inactive. From the 6/2/2026 meeting, we did have 3 there that renewed, so those have already been removed.
I incorporate by reference this list of permit applications to be made dead and hereby move for approval of same in the inclusion of these lists as part of the minutes of June 16, 2026 and made dead effective this date.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Right.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. There are 8 permits that we're announcing that will be made inactive on 7/7 if they are not renewed. So if those are yours, your clients, they've already been given notice, it should have already been renewed, but get it renewed in the next couple weeks if you haven't already. New business, there are permits up for reconsideration. These are permits that were approved by the commission, some as long ago as 2 or 3 years, that had missing information, a missing Form 1, a tax hold, items like that. They've been sent notice of the items they need to clear, most of them multiple times, and those have not been cleared. So we will be reconsidering the grant of those renewals on August 4th if they are not, if those issues are not timely renewed. Many of them now owe us additional renewal years. Those renewals should come in 100% complete, so we don't go into the same issues again. Announcements, there's a meeting in November that will be moved. Unless somebody tells me I missed something, I believe that concludes our meeting, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.